It's amazing what you're doing right now.
Thank you.
Fun. This is like a great way to, spend a Sunday afternoon when we're all stuck at home, right?
Ah, great for you. Oh my gosh. I need to I need to strike Bean Boozle. I'm just gonna throw out the rest of these beans. They've raised way too much money for charity for my own good. Oh.
That's
So how are
awesome.
you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm just glad that our thunderstorms are over. So at least, even though we're indoors, it's like you can see the sun. It's not raining. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm it's been a rough like couple weeks honestly over on Kauai. Um
I know I saw that you guys got flooded.
yeah. A couple times actually. We had a tornado warning uh, earlier this week, which we don't get tornadoes here. A water spout had actually happened in the middle of the flash flood thunderstorms, so that was interesting. We had three different warnings happening at the same time.
Wow.
Yep. So, Cynthia, why don't you tell us little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. I left Hawaii to study in Los Angeles and I worked in a nonprofit related to child and family services. Then, after I left to go to an e commerce startup where soon after I got a health scare. I felt some lumps during October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, if you all didn't know that. Um, and during that week long wait for results, it made me evaluate and think about what my life's purpose was, why I was here, and what I was doing with my life, right? I was pretty young. I was like 20, late 20s at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me think about a lot of things. And so I quit my job from the e-commerce startup. And then I decided to kick it with orphans in India and Africa for about 6 months. And after that, I came back to Hawaii. I worked for a state house representative where I got to see some amazing work of advocacy. Like I saw some amazing policies that passed because of volunteers or people with passions. And that was just an eye opener for me. And after that, I went to work for a smaller community health organization. And now, at my current position, I get to enjoy advocating side by side with volunteers like yourself on cancer issues affecting our state and nation.
Excellent.
So that's a little bit about myself. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you mentioned your position, advocating with volunteers and everything like that. Can you tell us what your position is? Like what is the grassroots manager?
Sure. So I'm currently the Hawaii Pacific Grassroots Manager for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. This means I get to work with awesome volunteers, advocates like yourself, and the two that will be interviewed by you later on today on projects like this fundraising marathon to make cancer issues a priority. Some of the things I do include public presentations on our issues that we're working on to groups and organizations, outreach at various events, working with coalitions that also work on the similar issues so we can collaborate together, collecting stories from survivors or caretakers or people who have loved ones who are battling with cancer, and training volunteers on various legislative priorities.
Okay. Um, so what you mentioned that the ACS can they do cancer advocacy and everything like that, but like what does that entail? Like what does that advocacy look like?
Great. So how does that advocacy look like? So ACS CAN works to encourage elected officials and candidates to make cancer a top local and state national priority, including a strong focus on cancer prevention, seeking new cures, funding for research, treatments, and ensuring that people across America have access to medical care that could save their lives. So this public policy is supported by volunteer advocates when they tell their stories. It includes cancer patients, survivors, and family and friends that have been touched by cancer to give ordinary people an extraordinary power to fight cancer with training and tools that I help to assist with, either through webinar teaching about what are the issues are, different policy forums. So that's a little bit of what I do.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, I do want to share some successes. So how does that look like practically? So Hawaii was the first state in the nation to pass Tobacco 21, Tobacco 21 in 2015. Which means that we were the first state in the nation, entire nation across 50 states, to make it illegal to sell or to purchase tobacco to anyone under 21 and younger. And on a federal level, for all the federal advocacy that we do, an example of a win is when Congress passed their 2018 budget that included a $3 billion increase for medical research at the National Institute of Health and a $275 million increase in funding for a National Cancer Institute.
Perfect. And what does that look like? Like, I mean, I know, but like for those at home, how does that happen?
Okay, great.
How do we
Keep
get
up
to
the
a
great
point
work.
where like we're talking about like increasing the budget for the National Institute of Health by $275 million?
Mm-hmm. So we do have something. So during the session, which is throughout the year, we have our advocate contact our legislators on their congressional offices, and they either call or make in-person visits to the offices to basically talk to the legislators' staff person or staff people or policy people, or the actual staff, or I'm sorry, the legislator themselves, the congressperson or the senator or the representative, about the priorities or the issues or why it is important. And at that time, they share a story if they have one, or tell them why it's important to them to receive the funding or have the funding released by Congress.
Okay, great. So what's on the agenda for this year?
So currently our agenda in Hawaii, we have 3 legislative priorities for Hawaii Pacific region. Our first priority is to end the sale of flavored tobacco products, including menthol. So currently there are over 15,500 flavors available for purchase. Can you believe that? That's like, wow, 15,500 flavors. So those flavors, include like strawberry, cotton candy. A lot of flavors are candy flavored. I can't imagine like, a 60-year-old adult going into a store and saying, I want to get cotton candy, or I want, strawberry flavored e-liquids. So these flavors are really geared towards attracting the youth. Some statistics, just to throw it out there, 8 out of 10 kids who have used tobacco started with a flavored product. And flavors are among one of the marketing tactics used by the tobacco industry, which has resulted in an increase in tobacco use for our youth. Hawaii has one of the highest youth usage rates in the country for middle and high schoolers. This information might be a little outdated because we're still waiting to hear back for our 2019 data, but in 2017, Hawaii was ranked as the #1 state in the nation for middle school use of e-cigarettes, and we were the second highest for middle and high school use of e-cigarettes in the US. So we're working on trying to end and ban the sale of flavored tobacco products, including menthol, in the state of Hawaii. And our second priority is to regulate e-cigarettes as tobacco products. Currently, every tobacco product is taxed in Hawaii except for electronic cigarettes. We're asking the legislature to have all forms of tobacco products, including electronic smoking devices, be taxed at that same rate. This includes like licensing of all tobacco retailers for tax collection and enforcement, and prohibiting online sales. So I don't know what the kids are doing now, because everybody's stuck at home, right? So
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if like they're all going through nicotine withdrawals right now, like how their families are dealing with it, right? If you think about it, what's happening?
Yeah.
Because they can't get their hands on it, because they're not at school with their other friends. And then our last priority is to support nonprofit fundraising, like the American Cancer Society from the state's general excise tax.
Hmm.
So currently the American Cancer Society is paying, so every time a person donates, let's say $100 to American Cancer Society,
Right.
American Cancer Society gets every penny. But let's say they're holding, one of their gala or hope events, and someone decides to not donate monetarily, but then gives them like the $100, but it's in a gift card form to like a restaurant, which American Cancer Society will then use, um, to auction off, silent auction or something to raise funds that way. They actually have to pay the general excise tax or GET for the $100.
Hmm.
So a lot of, I mean, that's just policy for in Hawaii. I'm not sure about what it is in the other states, but that's a pretty penny in terms of like the money that they're paying in taxes, which they could have been using for other programs that they have.
Right.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So, and then for on the federal level, our legislative priorities have changed because of what happened with COVID-19. So the latest ask for our federal legislation that we are working on is, to have the administration and Congress provide immediate relief for nonprofit communities in the next COVID-19 stimulus package. So we believe that because of what's happening in the potential downturn of the economy, a lot of nonprofits are going to be hurting.
Right.
I mean, every American is probably hurting right now too. In Hawaii, we rely on tourism, so I know that's something that we all have to deal with. But a lot of nonprofits are going to feel that effect as well.
Okay. So, obviously, like I had to change up a lot of my questions in the last couple weeks because COVID-19 has sort of changed the whole landscape of healthcare in general. But in the face of COVID-19, a lot of legislative offices and sessions are in fact closing. How is this affecting your functions as a grassroots manager?
Oh, that's a great question, Colton. Well, this unexpected worldwide pandemic has really changed some of our advocacy plans. Totally. It has changed week by week, day by day. So, as you're supposed to like fly into Oahu to do our Cancer Awareness Day, which was scheduled for this past Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to have our annual Cancer Awareness Day at the Capitol, on Tuesday, and then have this, fundraising marathon afterwards so that you could have some, advocates come on. But because of what happened, with COVID-19 spreading, everywhere, and because of a lot of our advocates are survivors, caretakers who, come home to, people who may be going through,
Immunocompromised.
yeah, exactly, or older, seniors who are a lot of our advocates and may have compromised immune systems. We have had to change our plans from in-person visits to virtual day of action, including, emailing, phoning legislative offices, setting up a Facebook Live event with the chairperson of the House Health Committee and chatting in. But on Monday, this past Monday, the day before go time, the Hawaii State Legislature decided to recess. So that basically means to pause the legislative session. No hearings, no voting, no, advocacy. So we have had to ultimately postpone our advocacy events and plans through this process. And since we started planning for the event till everything paused, we've had to change how we advocate or what we were going to do for at least Cancer Awareness Day 5 times. But I think the most important thing is that we have, even besides advocacy, like we as a health organization, we really want to make sure that our advocates and um, stay safe at this time.
Right. So with everyone, social distancing and self-isolating, obviously, like, it's canceled a lot of plans. Like, again, our state legislator went into our state legislation went into recess just before a digital day of action. Obviously, our in-person events have been like sort of canceled. So how are you like planning on engaging people in grassroots activism and outreach in a sort of quarantined world?
That's what I've been racking my brain on, and the ACS team has. So what I'm doing now, for example, supporting advocates like yourself who is thinking outside the box on getting information out in a fun way. It's so awesome that you can combine your passions with your hobby. And, as a grassroots manager, I want to support that. So if anybody has any ideas, that's awesome. I've also had some time to explore more ways to communicate with advocates besides, in person. It's following up with emails, using social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, keeping in touch with WhatsApp, being on WhatsApp, phone calls, texting, brainstorming the resurrection of a quarterly newsletter to engage with our older advocates. One of our asks that we had also planned for Cancer Awareness Day, virtual Cancer Awareness Day, was for advocates to submit video messages that we could send to our legislators on our priorities. So I'm collecting that currently. But if anybody has ideas out there that's watching this, if you have any awesome advice, please let me know in the chat box.
Actually, Jin and Young just asked, am I or ACS CAN on TikTok? I am not. I'm on Byte. I probably should get into TikTok, but do you have any plans to like sort of branch out to TikTok as a social media avenue?
It's awesome that you asked. So we haven't started a TikTok account yet. So I will look into that. But TikTok, again, is like video messages, right? So we have rules with what we can and can not post. So there's like a lot of red tape. It has to be vetted. So I will explore that. But so we'll work on that and see what can happen with that. Yeah. So that's a great suggestion, and I'll definitely talk to my boss about that and my team about that as well. But you guys can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at ACS CAN Hi. So ACS CANHI.
Cool. So actually, this is a question that I didn't. Actually, I'll just keep going with the normal questions. There are many forms of cancers, each with a lot of different causes and interventions, and we've actually discussed some of these the last legislative session with Davin. We were discussing liver flukes as a possible cause for liver cancers and stuff like that. How do you decide which types of cancers and which possible interventions to make actionable priorities in a given year?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question too. Well, just exactly like how you were saying that you're talking to Davin about possible liver flukes. When we work with our ACS CAN team and advocates, we keep our ears to the ground. We listen to stories. We stay in tune with issues. What is getting traction that's related to cancer and being current helps us determine our legislative priorities for the year. But, things pop up all the time that may come in a bill that's introduced by somebody else that we didn't even think of, that we would, jump on if it was good. But the beauty about legislative process is that anyone who has a story can tell their story and can advocate for that. So if people want to, they can reach out to us if they have any issues, like for example that liver fluke issue. We will definitely think and talk about it. The reason why our legislative priorities is e-cigarettes at this time, or flavored tobacco, as well as regulation, is because of just what's happened, all the news that happened across country that started with like people becoming ill or sick or hospitalized because of their lungs having issues, or EVALI, or
Mhm.
popcorn lung.
Right.
So that is, what was a big deal, at least for us, knowing some of our, um, just the data that's coming and the experiences that we've been hearing from some of the teachers here, and just seeing, teenagers at bus stops, like using e-cigarettes when we know that it's tobacco 21.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if people in chat donate, what is their money being used for?
Your dollars, go to help fund grassroots activities for advocates. So this is the perfect place for me to add this statement before I go on, that any contributions or membership payments to the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network are not tax deductible. And it's because we are using these funds to support an issue, or to lobby, basically, by meeting and contacting legislators. So an example of where a lot of these funds are going to go to is to support our cancer awareness days at the Capitol, and for our day at the Capitol, or lobby and summit day at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. in September. So this is to help pay for advocates like Colton to be able to fly to D.C. in September to meet with our congressional legislators at the White House to talk about, his passion and cancer awareness issues.
Thank you. What are the benefits to donating to the Cancer Action Network versus the main American Cancer Society?
So that's a good question. So your dollar, I kind of answered it in my last answer, but your dollar goes directly to help us work on cancer issues and policy. So it's like the same as when you can't. So in general, when people are running for office, those donations for candidate campaigns, you can't, write it off as taxes. It's because you're supporting, their run and an issue. So it's the same as this. But when you donate to American Cancer Society, your donations go to support funding for research, or research funding, to the Hope Lodge. And Hope Lodge is we have one in Hawaii, and I think there are Hope Lodges across at different various states, but that's for people who are going through cancer treatment, and they need just basically to go from cancer treatment to back to their home, or to their home is too far. And so then if there's a Hope Lodge nearby, they can stay at Hope Lodge free of charge. Also, American Cancer Society has a wig program where they give everybody who wants a free wig, if they're, because they're losing their hair. And also for their driving program, where volunteers come and help to drive people to their treatments. So there's it's different programs that we do. American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network works again on policy. So anything that deals with policy, your money will help us be able to, send our volunteers to help advocate for their passions and issues.
Great. And actually, I want to call out the Hope Lodge specifically, or shout out the Hope Lodge specifically. Not call out, because Hawaii has a unique geographical issue where we are not landlocked, and we're also not connected by any sort of land bridge between islands. So a lot of people talk about the degree of the amount of time that it takes to travel, by car from one place to another, like interstate or something like that. But here, interstate travel by car is just straight up impossible. But also inter-island travel is also impossible. If you want to travel to Oahu, where the vast majority of specialized care happens, if not all of it, honestly, I know that there are a lot of specialists that just don't exist on Kauai. So, it's if you want to seek specialist care for a number of health related issues, you fly to Oahu, or in some cases, rare cases, you have to fly to the mainland, and that's 5 or 6 hours by plane just to like SoCal. And so being able to like have a place to stay cost free, when even travel like a 30-minute hop from my island to the next island over, which is Oahu, costs $200 round trip. So like even like just being able to mitigate like the cost of lodging during, you know, frequent trips for specialized care is like hugely important. So I have one more question on my list, but I want to open questions up to chat. Jin Yoon Young had a question, but it was answered satisfactorily. So I'm going to jump to Davin's question. I think Jin had some more questions. We'll do Davin's question first, and then we'll go back to
Okay,
Jin's.
sure.
So Davin asks, do we know where our congressional delegation stands on the COVID-19 ask? What can people listening do or to advocate our congressional delegation?
That's a good question. So they actually are going to be voting on the COVID-19 this week, or they may have done it yesterday or because it's upcoming. I'm not really exactly sure like when they're going to be voting. But I had made a call out to our advocates to contact their offices. But I really can't answer that question right now. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Jin asks, I saw that Cynthia A is listed on fightcancer.org as the point of contact for Hawaii and Guam. What are you doing for the island of Guam? Is there tobacco education happening there?
Yeah, so yes, there is. We are working on legislation with Guam. Their legislative session is a little different than ours. Ours is in Hawaii is from January through May. Theirs is ongoing. So their advocacy is like year long. They were currently actually working on e-cigarette legislation as well, in Guam. So that is something that they're working on currently.
Perfect. And if you happen to know anybody in Guam who's willing to, sign up to do advocacy within Guam, definitely contact us as well, because
yes, definitely contact us. We had someone in the position that's similar to Colton, who was the ACC lead there, but they actually stepped down recently, and we're looking to replace that spot. So if you know anybody who is in Guam that has cancer issues as a priority or a passion, please let me know. So we're trying to work on that. But we do have someone on the ground there in the office who is working directly with legislators on legislation. We just don't really have a large volunteer advocacy group there.
Right. Yeah, that happened, late last year, yeah? I think I remember them, like, the last time, their last major act was, just before the National Advocacy Day, or the Day at the Capitol, in DC.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that they late last year, probably I feel like it was September. I don't remember exactly, but they did ban e-cigarettes, smoking indoors as well.
Cool.
So they don't allow e-cigarettes to be smoked indoors.
All right. That's good. Jin also asks, do you think ACS CAN will survive a downturn of donations due to COVID-19? And is it financially supported from the national org?
Yes. So a lot of our programs that we have is supported by American Cancer Society. So, but when people donate to American Cancer Society, they can be very specific on what those funds are going to be used for. So some people just want to donate for the Hope Lodge, so those are restricted funds. So the unrestricted funds do come to help support us, because we yeah, I think some individuals find it harder to donate to like for advocacy or because they might not be able to take a tax, uh, write it off their taxes. So
Right.
they rather donate towards American Cancer Society than us. I hope that, this potential economic downturn won't affect us. My
Yeah.
position was actually started about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So this position that I'm in, grassroots advocacy or advocate, is not, or I'm sorry, grassroots manager is new. So I don't know. We'll see
Yeah, I
what
think it would make
happens.
Davin the first grassroots manager. Yeah.
Yes, Davin is the first.
Okay. Cool.
Big
Um.
shoes to fill.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Jin has another question. I think you have an admirer. Um, says you sound very awesome and cute. Would you ever
Oh, thanks.
would you ever personally run for office, or do you feel being a grassroots manager is more effective?
Oh, wow. Good question. So I've had the privilege of working on several campaigns, supporting several, candidate campaigns. And I've worked, you know, at the legislature. So I've seen that, what happens on the other side. And then I've got to experience what happens on this side. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I think the when you run for office, you have to be really, really involved in the community and the community issues to know, you know, to be able to speak to what your constituency wants and what's important to them. And I'm not sure if I've, you know, have been embedded in the community enough because, as you know, I've traveled a little bit. So I don't think that I've made the roots in order for me to do so. But I love supporting people when they run for office because I think that they may actually do better or they're doing what the people want. That's, when people are legislators, they should represent the people. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. If I ever get rooted somewhere, so then yes, maybe.
Cool. Um, if anyone else has any questions related to ACS CAN or something like that, this is going to be my last call for questions. Otherwise, I'll give my last question. Why is advocacy important to you?
That's a good question too. So advocacy is important to me because I truly believe that everyone has a voice for their passions and beliefs. That may have begun because of something one has gone through by experience or by watching someone they cared about suffer through an event. Advocacy is a way that those ideas can be communicated for change in policy that can benefit not only that individual, but the greater society. So you will hear from Chelsea, one of our lead advocates, later today as a guest. But she wanted her university campus to become smoke free. And because of Chelsea's advocacy, the University of Hawaii campuses across the entire state of Hawaii is now has a smoke-free campus policy since 2 years ago. So her voice and her story has helped to make Hawaii a healthier and better place. So that's why advocacy is important to me because I get to see people's ideas and passions come into fruition. And that's why it's so important. So if any of you are listening out there who, something has happened to them or they've seen something, some kind of injustice, you can totally contact your legislative office and say, hey, like one of my, I did a presentation with my boss, the government relations director, to a bunch of ninth grade high schoolers, maybe a month ago now. And he was saying that he's even seen, because he's at the Capitol and he talks to people, so he's even seen like people, like there was a community where there was a person who lived there and the neighbor kept on like feeding pigeons. And so all their pigeons, so the pigeons would come and poop all over his house and his car and his property. And so then he, went out and made and basically like tried to get a bill passed to ban feeding feeding stray animals or birds, because of their passion on it. They're like, I don't want to, have all my stuff all like full of bird poop,
Yeah.
So it could be anything, like anything big or small issue. Like this is one of the amazing and beautiful things about, America, that we can, advocate for something.
Awesome. Davin had one more question, and it's kind of actually related to that. People on stream want to volunteer. How do they reach out?
Ooh, good one.
This is a good place to plug links.
I know. So, you can't there. I didn't prepare for this. So if you go to visit our website is fightcancer.org, and then you can choose Hawaii as an option. Or, I'm sorry, if you're not in Hawaii, you can choose your state. I'll put in a plug for my my other colleagues. But you can. There is a form to fill out, a volunteer form. You can also follow us definitely on Facebook at ACS CAN HI, ACS CAN HI. And then you can message me because I am the moderator or admin for that. And you can email as well. I will give you my email address, Cynthia, CYNTHIA.AU@cancer.org to contact me if you want to get involved in any way.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Let's see.
You had another question that you wanted to ask that wasn't.
This will be the last question, I think. Jin had one more. Does ACS CAN help fight cancer for animals as well as humans? Sounds dumb, but I'm wondering.
That is a very good question, and I know our pets are like family too. I don't know the answer. I'll have to talk to my boss about that. So I am not sure. I cannot give you a definitive answer.
All right.
But that is a good cause. I know there are a lot of animal advocate groups out there. In Hawaii, we have a lot of those. Maybe you can find your local animal group and see if they want to, because they bring their issues too. I see tons of, bills that come in for those groups. But I'm not sure if we would get the A-OK from, our organization for that.
Right. That's valid. Davin and Yuri are bringing up Bark for Life as well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
And then I will end on this note. Talmad asks, and I'm only saying this because it has sparked a lot of controversy in chat. Talmad asks, as someone who focuses primarily on Hawaii-based issues, how do you think pineapple belongs on pizza?
Oh, okay. On my okay, so this is like my personal answer, but I don't think pineapple belongs on pizza.
Thank you.
I think it's weird.
Thank you. It's a Canadian PSYOPs invention.
Oh,
yeah, and I have a new favorite grassroots manager now.
And I have to say that when I worked for the representative, they were a representative for Wahiawa. And in Hawaii, Wahiawa is where the Dole Plantation is. The Dole Plantation, produced a lot of pineapples in the world. And I'm all for pineapples, and I, think it's important. But I think that's like really weird. Ew.
Yeah, you know what? Chat's booing us, but you know where pineapple pizza or Hawaiian pizza comes from? It comes from like freaking Saskatchewan. Like, get out of here.
Oh, wow.
Chat, go away. That's a Canadian invention. And it's one of the many things that Canada should be ashamed of, but isn't. So
Wow.
you Canadians, get out. Just go. All right. I think that is it for us. Do you
Well,
have
this
anything
was
else that you
fun.
want to say?
Thank
Just any
you.
closing words?
I just want to thank everybody who is on this, just even if you're not donating, but for information, for supporting. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to support our programs. It's important that, like, I know that you may not be here to be in person with us, in Hawaii to advocate at the Capitol, but all your dollars is helping us, do what we're trying to do, which is to promote cancer issues and cancer awareness, because everybody has been touched by cancer in some way, even in their pets. And so thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate you. And thank you for just supporting us. And yeah, I'll see you guys on chat. And I hope to hear from you guys to support us in other ways. And if you guys have any ideas, let me know. Thank
Perfect.
you.
I have one last idea. So one thing that I've been doing for everyone who I've interviewed for this Fingers on Fire series, and this is a time-honored tradition, is you get a free song request. And you can add any
Awesome.
challenges or modifications that you want to it. The list of challenges is in chat for you right there.
Okay.
And
I'll chat it in, because this is like perfect timing, because I believe my Bluetooth is about to die or has died.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Oh.
Go ahead and chat it in.
All right.
I think so. Yeah.
I'll chat it in because it's like making noises now.
All right, cool. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.